From a fictional blood spatter analyst who wrapped kill rooms in plastic and dumped bodies in the Gulf Stream, to a church council president who strangled victims in their homes and got caught because he trusted police about a floppy disk. In this video, we're comparing Dexter Morgan's forensic expertise against Dennis Rader's catastrophic operational failures. First up, we've got intelligence, forensic analyst versus criminal justice student. Dexter Morgan operated with specialized forensic knowledge specifically designed to eliminate all physical evidence from crime scenes. Dexter worked for years as a Miami Metro bloodstain pattern analyst. Despite the differences in both the Showtime series and Jeff Lindsay's novels, one thing they did have in common is that he served as a bloodstain pattern analyst and testified as an expert in criminal trials. His daily work involved photographing crime scenes, analyzing blood patterns to reconstruct homicides, and understanding exactly how investigators process evidence. His kill rooms followed strict forensic protocols, entire spaces wrapped in clear plastic sheeting to prevent fiber transfer, surgical gloves to eliminate fingerprints, power saws for precise dismemberment, and heavy-duty contractor bags weighted with rocks for Gulf Stream disposal. He understood DNA transfer, trace evidence collection, fiber analysis, and forensic examination procedures because he actively participated in these procedures professionally every single day. Dexter's intelligence was specialized for one purpose: avoiding detection. His forensic training meant that he knew exactly what Miami Metro crime scene investigators looked for at murder scenes. Plastic sheeting prevented fiber evidence and blood spatter from contaminating surfaces. Dismemberment prevented victim identification even if bodies washed ashore. Gulf Stream disposal carried remains thousands of miles into the Atlantic Ocean. His professional position gave him unprecedented access. He could monitor his own cases, access police databases to research targets, and even manipulate evidence if necessary. When scuba divers accidentally discovered his dump site in Season 2, investigators only found skeletal remains in bags, with no evidence linking the remains to Dexter himself. Dexter's professional forensic training created near-perfect crime scenes, where physical evidence just simply didn't exist. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this forensic breakdown, make sure to subscribe and hit notification bell so you never miss on our crime analysis videos. But what about a killer whose education actually made him more dangerous? Dennis Rader studied criminal justice but lacked forensic expertise, leaving biological and trace evidence at multiple scenes. Rader was born on March 9, 1945 and grew up in Wichita, Kansas. He served in the U.S. Air Force in the 1960s before returning to Wichita in 1970, where he married and had 2 children. From 1974 to 1988, Rader worked at the local Wichita office of ADT Security Services, where he installed security alarms. Ironically, many of his clients were concerned homeowners seeking security from his own killings. In 1979, he graduated from a Wichita State University with a degree in criminal justice. In May of 1991, he became a dog catcher and compliance officer in Park City, Kansas. At multiple crime scenes, Rader left biological and trace evidence. At his first murder in January 1974, the Otero family killings, he left semen at the scene. He took trophies from victims, including underwear, driver's licenses, and personal items. He bound victims with ropes and ligatures from their own homes, creating fiber evidence. He strangled victims manually or with plastic bags, leaving DNA evidence. Rader's criminal justice degree taught him about police procedures and investigation techniques, but nothing about forensic science or evidence elimination. His education made him aware of how police investigate crimes, which should have made him more careful. Instead, it gave him false confidence. He left semen at the Ontario crime scene in 1974. He took trophies that connected him to victims. He bound victims with materials from their homes that contained his DNA and fibers. His ADT security work gave him access to homes and knowledge of alarm systems, but it didn't teach him about trace evidence or DNA transfer. His criminal justice education was theoretical, not practical forensic training. Rader's criminal justice degree provided theoretical knowledge about investigations, but little to no practical understanding of forensic evidence elimination. So in this case, the winner is Dexter. Professional forensic training designed to eliminate evidence against theoretical criminal justice education with no forensic expertise? Rader's degree couldn't compensate for leaving DNA, semen, and trophies at multiple scenes. But education only matters if your methods actually work, and that's where controlled environments meet home invasions. Dexter selected isolated private locations where he controlled every variable and eliminated all physical evidence. According to the Dexter Wiki, an established series canon, Dexter's modus operandi followed these exact steps. First, he researched targets through Miami Metro's police database and unsolved case files, gathering conclusive evidence of guilt per Harry's Code. Second, he stalked targets to learn their routines and confirm their crimes. Third, he selected pre-planned kill locations, whether it be abandoned buildings, warehouses, the target's own homes, and then he would completely wrap that space in clear plastic sheeting. Fourth, he approached unsuspecting targets from behind and injected them with M99 tranquilizer, rendering them unconscious. Fifth, he transported the victims to the prepared kill room. Sixth, he restrained them to tables using industrial shrink wrap. Seventh, he decorated the room with photographs and evidence of their victims. Eighth, he killed them with surgical knives, usually with a stab to the heart. Ninth, he would dismember bodies using surgical power saws. 10th, he would place the body sections in heavy-duty contractor bags weighted with rocks. And 11th, he would transport the bags on his boat and dump them into the Gulf Stream current that carried them into the Atlantic Ocean. Every variable of this process was controlled. Pre-selected locations meant that no witnesses and no surprises. Plastic sheeting caught every drop of blood, strand of hair, and fiber. The M99 injection prevented struggles or screams. The dismemberment prevented identification, and the Gulf Stream disposal made body recovery nearly impossible. When Sergeant Doe suspected him in Season 2 based purely on instinct, even with constant surveillance, Dokes couldn't find any physical evidence because Dexter never left any. The Bay Harbor Butcher investigation only happened because scuba divers accidentally discovered his dump site. Otherwise, his victims simply vanished. Dexter's methodical protocol created identical evidence-free crime scenes for well over 100 kills on screen and those implied across nearly 2 decades. Now, contrast that controlled precision with a man who killed in victims' homes surrounded by evidence. Dennis Rader broke into victims' homes where he couldn't control the environment, leaving physical evidence, witnesses, and crime scenes full of his DNA. On January 15, 1974, Rader broke into the Oterio family home and murdered 4 members. Joseph and Julie Oterio and 2 of their children, Josephine and Joseph Jr., died by strangulation. He took a radio and watched from the house. Evidence showed that he left semen at the crime scene. On April 4, 1974, Rader broke into Catherine Bright's home while she was out. When she and her brother Kevin arrived home, Rader forced Kevin to tie up Catherine, then bound Kevin in another room. When Kevin fought back, Rader shot him twice in the head. Kevin survived. Rader strangled Catherine to death. On March 17, 1977, Rader forced his way into Shirley Vian's home with her 3 children present. He barricaded the children in a bathroom and strangled Vian to death. On December 8, 1977, he broke into Nancy Fox's home and strangled her with a belt. On April 27, 1985, Rader murdered his neighbor Maureen Hedge in her home, then reportedly took her body to his church where he photographed her in bondage. On September 16, 1986, he killed Vicky Wiggerl by posing as a telephone repairman to gain access to her home while her 2-year-old child was present. On January 19, 1991, Rader murdered Dolores Davis in her secluded home by strangling her with her own pantyhose. Rader killed in victims' homes where he couldn't control the environment. Every home contained fiber evidence from furniture, carpets, and clothing. He left DNA on ligatures he used to bind victims. He left semen at crime scenes. He took trophies that directly connected him to victims. When Kevin Bright survived, he provided a witness account. When children were present, they heard everything. Rader used materials from victims' homes to bind and strangle them, leaving fiber transfer. His methods created crime scenes full of physical evidence that forensic teams could process. Compare this to Dexter, who selected isolated locations where no physical evidence could connect him to the scene. Rader's home invasion method created uncontrolled crime scenes full of DNA, fibers, witness accounts, and physical evidence connecting him to every murder. So in this case, the winner is Dexter. Controlled isolated kill rooms with plastic-wrapped evidence elimination against home invasions with DNA, fibers, and witnesses. Rader's method guaranteed forensic evidence at every scene. Drop a comment below and let me know, if you were investigating these cases, which would you rather solve? Dexter's evidence-free disposal or Rader's DNA-filled crime scenes? But perfect planning means nothing if you target the wrong people, and that's where calculated criminal selection confronts random innocent victims. Dexter selected victims who were confirmed murderers evading justice, reducing investigation intensity and eliminating public sympathy. Throughout the Showtime series, Dexter followed Harry's code strictly. He could only kill after finding conclusive evidence that targets were murderers who escaped the legal system. In Season 1, he targeted Father Donovan after confirming his guilt through careful investigation. In Season 4, he hunted Arthur Mitchell, the Trinity Killer who had committed a long-running series of murders over decades. In Season 7, he killed Viktor Baskov, a Ukrainian contract killer. According to the Dexter Wiki, he killed well over 100 people on screen and implied across 8 seasons. Every target required research through police databases, stalking to confirm guilt, and verification of their crimes. His victims were criminals operating outside society's normal patterns. No regular schedules, no concerned families filing missing person reports, no media coverage demanding justice. Dexter's victim selection created strategic advantages. Targeting criminals meant that investigations didn't prioritize their disappearances. These were bad people whose vanishing didn't generate public sympathy or media pressure. Arthur Mitchell's disappearance did trigger a missing person report from his abused wife, but given his documented suspicious behavior during investigation, police assumed that he fled. The Bay Harbor Butcher investigation only started because of accidental discovery, not because investigators were searching for Dexter's specific victims. His targets had no alibis, no legitimate connections, no paper trails that investigators could follow. Dexter's calculated criminal targeting meant that his victims' disappearances generated minimal law enforcement response and little to no public pressure for resolution. But what happens when your victims are innocent families and children? Dennis Rader targeted random innocent people, often families with children, creating maximum law enforcement pressure and public terror. Rader murdered 10 people in Wichita and Park City, Kansas between 1974 and 1991. His first victims were the entire Otero family: Joseph Otero, 38, his wife Julie, 34, and 2 of their 5 children, 11-year-old Josephine and 9-year-old Joseph Jr., were all strangled in their home on January 15, 1974. Rader suffocated Joseph and his son with plastic bags and strangled Julie while their children watched. He then killed Josephine in the basement. His victims included Catherine Bright, 21, murdered on April 4, 1974, Shirley Bean, 26, strangled on March 17, 1977, with her 3 children barricaded in a bathroom, Nancy Fox, 25, strangled on December 8, 1977, Maureen Hedge, 53, murdered in April 1985, Vicky Wergel, 28, a mother of 2, killed in September 1986, Dolores Davis, 62, murdered in January 1991. Rader's victim selection created maximum law enforcement response. These were innocent people with families, jobs, and community connections. The Otero family murders included 2 children, generating intense media coverage and public outrage. Shirley Bean had 3 children who heard their mother being killed. Vicky Wergel's 2-year-old child was home during her murder. These weren't criminals who wouldn't be missed. These were mothers, daughters, sisters, wives. Every disappearance generated missing person reports. Every murder generated intense investigation. The public lived in terror. Compare this to Dexter, whose victims were criminals with no legitimate ties to society. Rader's random selection of innocent victims created maximum law enforcement priority and intense public pressure for resolution. So the winner here is Dexter. Strategic criminal targeting that reduces investigation intensity against random innocent victims, including entire families. Rader's approach guaranteed the most intense investigation possible. But perfect victims and careful methods mean nothing if your ego exposes you, and that's where professional silence confronts compulsive communication. Dexter maintained operational security through forensic knowledge, controlled environments, and complete evidence elimination. Throughout 8 seasons, spanning well over 100 kills on screen and implied, Dexter's near-capture moments came from external factors, never from the forensic evidence itself. Sergeant Dokes did suspect him in Season 2 based purely off of behavioral instinct, not physical evidence. Even with constant surveillance, Dokes found nothing. The Bay Harbor Butcher investigation discovered his Gulf Stream dump site through accidental discovery, by scuba divers searching for treasure, not through investigative work tracing evidence back to Dexter himself. Heck, even in Dexter New Blood, after 10 years in hiding under a new identity in Iron Lake, New York, he maintained his cover until complex circumstances exposed him, not forensic evidence or investigative work. Even when his sister Deborah walked in on him killing Travis Marshall in Season 6, it was just catastrophically bad timing, not any evidence that led her there. Dexter's operational security focused on prevention. He didn't take unnecessary risk. He didn't kill in public. He didn't keep trophies beyond microscope slides with single blood drops hidden behind his air conditioner. He avoided patterns investigators could identify. He varied his dump locations, maintained his friendly lab technician persona perfectly. His only vulnerability was human relationships. Sister, girlfriend, family. Emotional connections that threatened his compartmentalization. His professional knowledge meant that he understood police procedures, investigation priorities, and evidence processing. He could predict what investigators would do because he was one of them. Most importantly, he never communicated with police or media about his kills. Dexter's operational security meant his near captures came from external factors and relationship complications, never from forensic mistakes or communication failures. But what happens when you can't stop talking about your crimes? Dennis Rader was caught because he compulsively communicated with police and media, ultimately trusting them about a floppy disk that contained his identity. In October 1974, Rader sent a letter with instructions on finding more information hidden in a textbook in the public library. Inside that book was another letter confessing to the Ontario murders and describing himself with the phrase, "The code words for me will be bind them, torture them, kill them, BTK." On December 9, 1977, he called police from a payphone and told them that they would find Nancy Fox's body at her home. The call was recorded and released to the public in 1979. After his last murder in 1991, Rader went silent for 13 years. In 2004, after media coverage of the 30th anniversary of the Ontario murders, Rader resumed sending letters. He sent packages to media outlets containing photographs of victims, copies of driver licenses, and crime scene details. He often used cereal boxes to hold drawings, crime souvenirs, photographs, and even dolls posed to mimic the deaths. In January 2005, Rader left a package asking police whether they could trace a floppy disk. Through a classified newspaper ad, police responded, "Rex, it will be okay," falsely indicating it would be safe. In February 2005, Rader sent a floppy disk to KSAS TV. Forensic investigators examined the metadata and found that it pointed to Christ Lutheran Church and contained the name Dennis. Police discovered Dennis Rader was president of the church council. They obtained a warrant for familial DNA comparison using a sample from his daughter's medical records, which matched DNA found under victim Nikki Wergel's fingernails. Rader was arrested on February 25, 2005. Rader's compulsive need for attention destroyed his operational security. He couldn't stop communicating with police and media. He sent letters describing his crimes. He called police to report murders. He sent packages with photographs and trophies. After 13 years of silence, he couldn't resist resuming communication. When he asked police about the floppy disk, they lied to him. He trusted them. The metadata on the disk pointed to Christ Lutheran Church and contained the name Dennis. A familial DNA comparison matched DNA from crime scenes dating back to 1974. His entire capture happened because he couldn't stop talking. Compare this to Dexter, who never communicated with police or media about his kills, never sent letters, never called to report crimes, and never sought attention. Rader's compulsive communication and trust in police led directly to his capture through digital forensics and DNA evidence. So, once again, the winner is Dexter. Professional silence and complete evidence elimination against compulsive communication that led to capture through a floppy disk. Rader's ego and need for attention destroyed 31 years of evasion. Dexter Morgan was methodical, calculated, professional. Throughout 8 seasons, 8 novels, and well over 100 kills on screen and implied across nearly 2 decades, he operated with forensic precision specifically designed to eliminate evidence. His kill rooms followed strict protocol. His victim selection targeted criminals who wouldn't be missed, and his body disposal made recovery nearly impossible. Dennis Rader was reckless, compulsive, egotistical. Between 1974 and 1991, he killed 10 people across Kansas, leaving DNA, semen, fiber evidence, and trophies at virtually every crime scene. His need for attention and compulsive communication created the evidence trail that caught him 31 years after his first murders. This comparison reveals the massive difference between fictional sophistication and real-world serial killer psychology. Dexter's forensic training meant that he understood trace evidence, DNA transfer, fiber analysis, and blood spatter analysis at a professional level. He eliminated evidence because he knew exactly what investigators looked for. Rader's criminal justice degree taught him about police procedures, but nothing about forensic science. He left semen at the Ontario crime scene in 1974. He took trophies, including underwear and driver's license, that connect him to victims. He left DNA on ligatures and at crime scenes. His degree gave him theoretical knowledge, not practical forensic expertise. Dexter's methodical protocol followed identical procedures for every kill: plastic-wrapped rooms, controlled environments, surgical dismemberment, ghost stream disposal. Rader's methods involved breaking into victims' homes where he couldn't control the environment. He killed families with children present. He left survivors who provided witness accounts. He used materials from victims' homes to bind and strangle them, creating fiber transfer. Every crime scene was full of physical evidence forensic teams could process. Dexter's calculated victim selection targeted confirmed murderers who evaded justice, criminals whose disappearance wouldn't trigger major investigations. Rader's random targeting of innocent families, including children, created maximum law enforcement response. The Ontario family murders included 2 children, generating intense media coverage and public outrage. Shirley Vian's 3 children heard their mother being killed. Vicky Wergel's 2-year-old child was home during her murder. These were innocent people whose deaths demanded justice. Dexter's operational security avoided all communication with police or media. His near captures came from external factors: accidental discovery of dump sites, suspicious colleagues, relationship complications, never from forensic evidence or communication failures. Rather compulsively sent letters and packages to police and media for over 30 years. He described his crimes in detail. He sent photographs and trophies. He called the police to report the murders. After 13 years of silence, he resumed communication because he was bored. When he asked police about the floppy disk, they lied to him. He trusted them, and the metadata pointed to Christ Lutheran Church and contained the name Dennis. A familial DNA comparison matched DNA from 1974. Basic digital forensics and DNA testing caught him. The comparison isn't close because one represents fictional perfection, designed for entertainment, while the other represents real-world serial killer psychology. Dexter embodies what would be required to actually evade modern law enforcement: professional forensic training, controlled evidence elimination, calculated victim selection, and absolute operational silence. Rather represents the reality: theoretical criminal justice knowledge without forensic expertise, uncontrolled home invasions leaving DNA everywhere, innocent victims generating maximum investigation, and compulsive communication that exposed him. If Dexter Morgan existed in the real world with his exact methods, him being a professional forensic analyst, the plastic-wrapped kill rooms, the surgical dismemberment, Gulf Stream disposal, the calculated victim selection, and never communicating with authorities, he would represent one of the most sophisticated serial killers ever documented. His professional training and evidence elimination protocol would make him extraordinarily difficult to catch. Dennis Rader existed with his exact methods: criminal justice degree without forensic knowledge, home invasions leaving DNA and fiber evidence, innocent victims, including entire families, and compulsive communication with police and media, and was caught through a floppy disk he sent after police lied to him. His 31 years of evasion ended because he couldn't stop seeking attention and trusted police about digital forensics. One man represents fictional serial killer perfection, the other represents real serial killer limitations. And that gap reveals why Dexter remains compelling fiction, and while Rader became a case study in how ego, compulsive communication, and trust and police eventually catch killers who can't stop talking about their crimes. If you enjoyed this breakdown comparing Dexter's fictional precision to BTK's real-world failures, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, and check out our last video, why Dexter vs. Son of Sam isn't even close.